Welcome back, everybody. Today we are going to work on a new project. I'm so excited about this project. It should be a pretty fun one. We're going to kind of step away from the chapters in the book for just a little bit while we kind of begin this new project. So, we're going to begin by working on a movie poster. Movie posters in general are just one of those pieces of artwork that really can even sometimes become a collector's item. They're nice, big pieces that really encapsulate what the movie is about. So, here's a pretty interesting one called Vertigo. It's from a while back. But as you can see, it can be very um, artistically charged and create kind of a feeling of what the movie might be about. It's a great way um, to really, like I said, kind of tell a story about the movie. This is one that we all might know. It's Jaws. It really creates this feeling about what the movie might be about. Obviously, there's this crazy proportion with this huge shark versus the person that's on top. And so it kind of creates the feeling that, there's definitely some terrifying moments in this one. This is probably also one that you've seen maybe made a parody of, or it's been used many, many times. So it's very well recognizable. But in general, movie posters are a great opportunity to create something really interesting um, that really can become an art piece in itself. So, one of the things that we really want to think about when we're making a movie poster is kind of the composition and proportion of all the pieces in a movie poster. So, most movie posters have three main pieces: the object, the background, and the title. So, there are several different ways that it can be used, and you'll notice, depending on kind of what movie you're looking at, that each one of these are going to be a little bit different. So, for example, this one here, you can notice that there is a pretty large background, and it kind of gives the feeling of a lot of space. This one, Gravity, kind of gives that right away, is that there's all of this space, right? And the object is only about 10% of the picture. So really the focus is more on, you know, the space that it's going to be in. And then, of course, our title takes up about 10% of that. And so it kind of gives this illusion of grandiose space, time, and it's really more focused on what's going on in the background. This, on the other hand, is a little bit different. You'll see on these, the object kind of becomes a little bit bigger. And the focus becomes more about the people or the place, the people or the things that are happening in that, and less away from the background, and it's less grandiose. And so the perfect one you can notice here is Jumanji. We have all of our main characters right here. They're about 30% of your main picture. Um, and then you have some background in here. And then there's this really good use of typography where you have this really great pop of color that really brings it out from the background, from this black background. Another thing I also want to note here is that there can be a different feel for each one. So if you notice with Jumanji, this feel feels a little dark and mysterious, and we're not really sure what's going to happen. Whereas this one here, you can tell they're using brighter colors. It's definitely more of a kids themed movie. But even though it's kind of got this moon and things of that nature, you can tell that it's going to be more of a lighthearted movie just by the background. And then the title kind of takes about 20% of that. And then that kind of gives you your whole feel. Now, this one here, the object kind of gets bigger. So, a lot of times this is used when we have a big name actor, or really when the movie is more focused on the actor or who's playing the scene than it is about where they're at. So there's a good proportion of the object, which is about 50%. And then there is some background to kind of give you context of what's going on. And then your title takes up a pretty good amount of that. Same thing here and same thing over here. And if you really notice, they really do a good job of using that font and typography to really add to the way it feels. It's strong in some sorts when it has this really, you know, bold color, bold typeface. It really adds to the strength of what's going on. And then the last kind of composition ratio is really where the object takes up about 90%. And this is kind of when they really want to show the emotion or what's going on with the person or the object that's actually in the photo. And there really is no background. It's just mainly the focus is on the person. And then the title is put about 10%, so a little bit smaller. So as you can notice, there are different ways that you can kind of go about creating this movie poster. It really just depends. So, there are lots of different choices. So whenever you're going to kind of create this, think about that. Think about how you want it to feel, how you want it to come across, what kind of movie you're doing, and how it plays together. And this is just another idea about how typography can really add or subtract from your movie. Sometimes you want something that's really bold and that's really takes over. Sometimes you want something that's really simple or thin. Sometimes the weight of just the typography in itself can make a huge difference. You can see that this is two of the same. This one feels a little more sneaky and sly and a little bit more sinister, whereas this one feels more strong and it's going to take over everything. So the way you use your typography can really make a huge difference. So think about that as we move forward. Now, we've kind of talked about color theory in the past, but I just want to kind of touch back over it because this is going to be a big part, another big part of this project. So when you're kind of creating your movie theater or your movie poster, definitely color comes into play. And I'm just going to kind of move through these pretty quickly because we've already gone through these before. But again, how you use that color will make a big difference. So for example, this is your complementary colors. And really it's brought into, you have this orangey color right here in the car. And then you have this blue. And the thing that makes this work is it's really broken up by the dark black. And the dark black makes it feel really sinister and like a horror movie. But it also is not overpowering. So they're not fighting with each other, but they're kind of broken up by this black. It makes a huge difference. Again, this one is the split complementary. It's a great use of these colors to kind of make the piece of artwork just pop. And if you notice, there's a pretty good amount of his face. There's a little bit of background. But this is a great use of this color. Next one, we have the analogous colors. What makes this really work is that it kind of, again, has something to kind of break it up to where it's not really, so overpowering that it really takes over. But again, it's a combination of all the colors in a row. This one's got a low saturation and kind of a black base. How you use your colors are going to make a huge difference. So this is the triad color, the red, yellow, and blue. And if you notice again, this is Superman. The colors aren't too overpowering, but they're there. But if you notice, there's this black background, and so it kind of gives it a feel, like a darker feel, a more serious feel. Whereas this one that has the same colors, it's brighter, so it feels a little bit more light and airy. So that can make a big difference. It's got more of a white base. So how you choose to use those colors are going to make a huge difference in your composition. The tetradic harmony, again, this is 4 colors equidistant on the color wheel. The reason that this one works specifically is because it's in a space and it's not overpowering it. So it has black and white to kind of break it up. So when you're using this sort of color combination, you want to make sure that it's not going to overpower your movie poster. Okay, so as we that's kind of just the background of all of the things. So as we kind of move forward, we're going to kind of work on this project in steps. And one of the very first steps of this project is going to be brainstorming, because unless we all know what we want to do right off the bat, everybody pretty much needs to do a little bit of brainstorming just to kind of get our ideas on paper. And so one of the very first things about this is I want you to create your own movie poster. So to do that, we're going to first think about what kind of movie we want to do. So we really need to do sort of a brain map about it, a brainstorm map. So we're going to kind of start with what we're going to do. So we're going to have a movie, right? And then you have several different directions you can go. You can go action, horror, drama, animation, love story. There's lots of different choices. And then from there, we can kind of think about what kind of characters we want. So if we're doing, say now, animation, our character might be a 3-year-old girl. And then we want to think about kind of the location. So in her room, on a vacation, at the beach, under the sea. There's lots of different thoughts and ideas. So this kind of goes back to when we're thinking about our composition, right? So we have a background, which is kind of the location, a character, which is kind of your object, and then the genre is kind of made up out of kind of what you want it to be, right? So during this process, really take some time and really kind of flesh out what you want to do. So on this project, I want you to start with 3 different ideas. So choose 3 different ones, choose 3 of the same ones, or the same sort of genre. But I would just encourage you to take a little bit of time and really think about what would work best. What can you make happen? Um, what uh, what interests you and how you want it to feel. So this is the very first step, is kind of working out what you want to do, who your character might be, and a location that may work for it. So, like, for example, we have horror. Our character might be boys in a cornfield or a school. Seems like it could be really interesting for sure. Then the next step that we want to do is we want to look up references. So, for example, if we're using this horror movie that we just talked about, what you would do is do a Google image search and search up horror movie posters, right? And it'll give you a pretty good idea of several ones that may have been used in the past. So when you're looking at these, you kind of right off the bat, you notice that this is horror movie, so there's this really dark feel throughout all of them. None of them are really bright and airy like a comedy. They really have this dark, sinister feel that kind of invokes this feeling of fear. Some other things that you'll notice is that there's this red that kind of goes through, and the blue that kind of makes it feel cold and empty. So right away, you can kind of notice kind of a rubric of how this normally goes. And so what you want to do is look up and see what color combinations do they use? What composition do they use? Some of these use only the face. Some of these use only backgrounds. So it really just depends on what you're going to be working towards. So you're going to take your ideas from your brainstorm mapping, and then you're going to look up the references. See what you can find. Next thing you want to do is kind of create some reference ideas for the different movie posters that you're interested in. So this one might be, one of your things. And then also add a color swatch on there. See what it kind of works out to be. So these posters are going to be portrait size, and they're going to be 24 inches wide by 36 inches long. So here's a great one. This is an example of a student that has done this. And so it'll be 24 by 36 and 72 dpi. And as you can notice, this person did a really great job of taking their own photos and really compositing things together to really create something that's interesting, that makes you want to know what it's about, that may encompass what it could be about. But this is a really great example of kind of what we're moving towards in this project. Here's another great one. This is North. And as you can tell, this person did a great job of kind of compositing these images together to really create something that was, really encompassing what the movie was about. If you notice, this really uses the 10% rule, the 10% object, 80% background. It really gives the feeling of a lot of space, just the enormity of the place. So there's some really good choices directions you can go with this. So the very first part is going to be your brainstorming. And then after that, what I want you to do is I want you to propose what you're thinking about doing. So you're going to create sketches, you're going to create some reference photos, and kind of combine them all together in a proposal. Uh, I'll go ahead and show you what the proposal will look like. So when you go onto Blackboard, there is a link to download this. And what I want you to do is I want you to use this kind of as a form to fill out what your movie proposals are. So there will be 3 of them. And for all 3, you're kind of going to need the same things. So you'll just go in and kind of fill this out with what you're needing. And so for each one, you're going to have your title of the movie. This is going to be something you have made up. I want to see 3 images of 3. I want to see, the 3 images of 3 sketches. And make sure these are good images. Like, I don't want to see something that's really fuzzy or anything like that. I want to see kind of your thought process on this. And then I want you to write kind of a concept answering these 3 questions. What's the genre of the movie? What's the movie about? It doesn't need to be like a novel. You just give me a short synopsis. What does the color theory emphasize in the mood? And what does the strategy of the composition create? And why does it create an attractive movie poster? Then I want you to add a reference for your ideas. So there will be 3 of these, and all 3 should be different. And then when you're done, you're going to go ahead and save that and upload it as part of your project. Once you're done with this, then I'll kind of look over it and we'll brainstorm what will be the best one, or give you some feedback on that. So I wanted to go ahead and give you an example of a student that has done this. So this is kind of an idea. So she has an idea here of this movie called Change of Heart. And she's given 3 different sketches. And the sketches are pretty good. She gives an idea of what it is. It's a drama. 2 sisters who grew up in an orphanage. She talks about the colors and what her kind of composition and how it's going to change the story. And then after that, she gives a reference idea for how it should look. Here's another one, Being Friends with Demons. They've got 3 different ideas, kind of a synopsis of what it's about, what kind of genre it is, how the colors and the composition play into it. And then a reference idea for what they're looking for the color and the feel. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing on this next part. So we're going to do the brainstorming and then creating your proposal. So how to document your sketches. The sketches are so hard, especially when we're working on an online format. So one of the things is I want to be able to actually see your thought process. So in order for that to happen, I want you to make sure to scan or take a picture of your sketch and make sure that it's in focus without a shadow. And also crop out any unnecessary things that may be around it, like whatever snacks you have going on. So here's an example. You can tell that this is not a good example. The picture is not cropped really well, but more than anything, we have this crazy shadow on there, and I can't really tell what's going on. So it's not necessarily that the sketch is bad, the sketch is probably great. You just can't really tell what's happening because of the shadow. Here's another one. This one is probably also a great sketch. But again, because it's not in focus, I can't tell what's going on. And so this is a bad example of a sketch. Now, some good examples are some really clear concepts that are well lit and in focus. Now, these may not look in focus on this video, but I can see really well what their idea is, what their concept is, how they kind of got to that point. So these are really clear, concise, in focus, and they don't have any shadows. So this is really what we're working towards. This is another great example. This person did their sketches on a tablet. They have some color ideas. They have some thoughts about how they want to lay it out. Great examples. And here is another really clear and concise idea for what composition they want it to be. Another great example of what I want to see when you hand in your sketches. Okay, so I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the really exciting things that you guys are going to be working on. This will be a really fun project. I can't wait to kind of work through it with you all. So for these two beginning parts, I want you to work on brainstorming and creating your proposal, and then we'll kind of move from there. Happy brainstorming.